and Cowboi Cole Robertson.
Misfits on vinyl for me. Fuck John Cougar!
Hello and welcome to Misfits on Vinyl. My name is Spencer Streichert. I'm an actor, comedian, and one of your tits.
My name is Aaron. I am also one of your tits, and once again, we are
a tri-tit.
Tri-tit.
For the fourth time in the last as many weeks.
Yeah,
we've become a tri-tit podcast.
it's pretty amazing.
This week we're joined by a special guest, comedian, rodeo cowboy, professional rodeo cowboy,
Hell yeah.
Announcer, Jesus Christ, you do a million things from right outside of the city, good old Okotoks, Cowboi Cole Robertson, everybody.
Thank you all for coming in here today. It's been phenomenal.
Our live studio audience.
Our live studio audience, all 37 of them.
Yeah.
Amazingly, we fit 37 people behind the
I'm
camera.
holding up the clap sign. Clap now.
This has all been pre-written.
Yeah.
I can't read very well.
It's totally scripted. Or every episode is totally scripted.
Honestly, it was funny because I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago with someone, and it still hasn't come out yet. But the person was like, "Yeah, so how much work do you do like before you do your podcast? Because you guys seem to like keep on track." And I was like, "I don't know, like we prepare like 3 to 4 hours each week." And they're like, "Oh, you prepare before the podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude." I'm like, "That's part of doing a podcast."
Yeah. We have to actually listen to the music we're going to talk about.
Yeah, which that's a big one, is listening to the album like 3 to 4 times,
Mm-hmm.
and then doing all the research on the album and research on the guests. That's like that's the 3 things that we
Yes.
have to do. When there's no guests, it's honestly a little bit harder because we don't get to fill time with just asking people questions about what they're up to.
I was actually familiar with you because I saw that video that you had that went viral where you roped the cop's leg. So that was my first introduction to you. I don't know how long ago that was, but
That was 2021.
nice.
That
Damn.
was a long time ago now.
Yeah, that was a while. I think that was the year that we met. Was it not 20 or was it 2020?
Actually, sorry, 2022 is when I healed the cop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because what year did we meet? It was during the pandemic. I know that. It was like when shit was like on and off again, locking down.
Yeah.
Because you were doing comedy, and that was like when we first met was at
The Fishbowl
yeah.
Terror show you had
Yeah.
that night.
yeah, and that was Cafe Koi back when that was
Yeah.
Cafe Koi.
Dude, I
So
love that place.
that place was
I love
fucking
performing there, man. It was so
amazing.
much fun.
Honestly, it's such a bummer how many venues in the city like are gone now or have like completely changed to the point where they're unrecognizable.
Well, before we came in here, we were talking about Tea House, and I mean,
Yeah.
Comedy Monday night's a whole different thing now.
Oh yeah.
Whole different can of worms. But yeah, we were talking about the Tea House because I saw you perform at the Tea House for that rodeo benefit you put on
Yeah.
last summer, right?
Last February
Last
for
February,
yeah.
February. There you go.
Yeah, Sandy Cooper Black.
Yeah.
Fucking shout out to Sandy Cooper. He's
Shout out Sandy Cooper.
doing fucking great
That's
now.
what I hear.
He's everything I've seen. He's honestly like doing a lot better. And his mom sent me a really nice message this summer, thanking me again for that. I forgot to respond to it. I was
You're an asshole.
I'm responding now.
I'm responding now on the podcast. Thank you for the message, Glennis. I appreciate it. But yeah, that was honestly such a fucking fun show too.
It was huge, man. And that was the first time I did 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Had an absolute blast. Like, shout out Spencer. This guy's giving me so many opportunities on a mic down here. It's been awesome because I come and go. Like I was explaining to Aaron, like I'm about an hour from even here, right? So
Yeah.
like, sometimes it's a chore to come to downtown Calgary.
Well, and especially like with the amount of shit that you have going on too, because
Yeah.
like something that we should mention right off the bat, you filled your pro card this year. You finally
did.
like got your permit filled,
Yeah.
which is huge because that's I know, like, you know, not personally because I never went pro, but like I know how much of a big deal that is because it's especially an event like in the timed event end, because there's a fucking million of you guys, right? So it's way harder to get that $1,000 in a season than it is if you're in, like, say, the bareback riding, you know, where there's 20 guys. You stay on at 2 rodeos, you're probably going to fill your permit. Whereas, you know, in the timed event end, it's so much way more intense of a competition in terms of like number of competitors, but then also I would say the quality of competitors is also insane, because look at how many guys are like doing pro rodeos and jackpots and stuff, and so they're constantly roping.
It's nonstop. And the
yeah.
other thing too, like a difference maker that I've really noticed between rough stock and timed event, is you could be the most talented guy with a rope, but if you're not mounted on the right horse, you are going to get beat
Yeah.
everywhere by people who are just riding better horses than you.
Oh, totally. And the other thing is too is you have to like in the team roping, you have to team roping, the steer wrestling, you have to have faith in the guy that you're working with too,
Yeah.
and his horse. And so it's like you have so many other factors that are involved. Don't get me wrong, I have my gripes with the rough stock event with like judging. I feel like now they're throwing 90s out like it's fucking.
You need to explain some of this to
Okay,
me.
so-
like I'm a fucking 3-year-old.
Actually, that's a good point. We should
Yeah.
Cole does the timed event, and
Yes.
so that's like roping. So that's team roping, tie down roping, steer wrestling, breakaway roping. So basically, the whole point in that end is to be as quick as you can.
Yeah.
While making a clean run, so you're waiting for the calf or the steer to break the barrier before you run through.
Yeah, there's different penalties you can pick up if you kind of don't go step by step.
What's kind of a goal time? Like if you had to pick a goal time for I don't know what
Now,
specific event.
This is the cool part. Each rodeo is different.
Okay.
But if you were to go to an event like we'll just use the Canadian Finals rodeo,
Mhm.
it's 6 rounds, so you get to rope 6 times if you qualify for this event. But it's the same setup every night. You get to watch the calves go a couple times, and we'll say like at the CFR, if you could go out and be anywhere from 7.5 to 8.5 in the calf roping seconds, you're gonna win a lot of money.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it's crazy because like when you look at it from like the rough stock end, you watch people riding broncs and bulls, and 8 seconds feels like fucking forever when you're watching it in that setting, right? But when you're watching it in the calf roping, 8 seconds feels like it goes by like that. Like it's super quick.
Yeah.
And then the other side of the arena is the rough stock end, where that's bronc riding,
Yeah.
bull riding. That was what I did when I competed, and that is judged out of 100. So you have 50 points that goes to the stock and how hard they buck, how basically the difficulty of the stock and what they're putting out, and then the other 50% comes from how good you do as a rider.
Interesting. So you can only control really half your score.
You can only control half
Yeah.
your score.
That's fascinating.
But now what we're seeing in the rough stock event, specifically in the bronc riding and the bareback riding, we're seeing a lot of scores that I feel like 10 years ago would have been in the high 70s, and they're now the low 90s. There's guys that are like missing a few licks in the saddle bronc riding. So licks is like you're spurring. So you get more points if you're keeping in time with the animal, and you're in the bronc riding, the bareback riding, if your heels of your boots are above their shoulders before their front feet hit the ground, and then you pull back as they go up, and then you
do it again,
reset again.
Yeah.
And you're basically trying to keep in time, and it does actually help you with getting a better score, not just because it looks better, but because it helps pick up a lot of horses. Like there's a lot of bucking horses who, like, as soon as they feel that makes them want to jump again, and it makes them, like, honestly, it makes them a lot better. I've seen horses that are rank as hell, but they have a shit out because the guy that's riding them can't ride worth a shit.
Yeah.
So the problem is now we're seeing a lot of I would say in the saddle bronc riding you see it a little bit more, where there's guys that will miss licks, like they'll get behind on a horse and then they'll be in the high 80s to low 90s, and you never would have seen that 10 years ago.
Okay, interesting. That makes sense. So my question for you then, Cole, is like, where do you go, like, circuit wise? How far are you traveling? Like, what's your schedule like if you're doing a rodeo circus? Like, give me a weekly breakdown or something. I'm just curious what sort of traveling you're doing. And
Big time. So our pro rodeo season up here starts in April at Medicine Hat, and there's a few kind of throughout that early spring into the late spring, and then starting June, man, it's game on. Like we would leave on usually Thursday, sometimes a Wednesday. Like the Wainwright Slack is always, everybody runs one Wednesday morning, and so you have to be there, right? And then your whole weekend starts from there. So we'll go to 5-6 rodeos in a weekend from Thursday to Sunday.
Nice.
And it's just full game on. And the farthest west I went this year was out to Williams Lake, BC, over the July long weekend, which, man, that's the first time I ever went out to that rodeo. It was sick.
That
Like,
is a
I can't
crazy
wait to
cool
go back
rodeo.
out there, man. Like, huge, everything was built out of huge timber framing and everything like that. The arena, the stands, everything. It was beautiful, man. It looked like one massive log home, but we bucked bulls and jerked down.
That's cool. That's cool.
It
That's
was
super
rank,
cool.
yeah. And then the farthest east you can go is out to Morris, Manitoba for the pro rodeo circuit. But like all the CCA rodeos, man, all of our amateur associations, you could go into BC. You could literally go you could be pulling your Montana circuit card and going down to Montana. It honestly just depends how much cash you have
Yeah.
and how hard you want to go.
And that's the other thing too, is it's kind of like comedy where you can do your own. It's honestly, it's a lot like comedy for a lot of reasons, but one of them is like you kind of how often you're out there is kind of up to you.
Nice.
And how much of a pace you set is up to you. When I was rodeoing back in the day, so the CCA, which is the like largest semi-professional association, it used to be insane. Like guys would be pulling like $20,000 a year just riding semi-pro. And so like you would be able to go to like 60 to 80 rodeos in a summer at a semi-pro level, which was great. And now it's much less. Like it's kind of disappointing watching how the CCA has dipped in the last few years. But a big part of that, I think, honestly, is because they took the finals out of Regina.
I think that was a big one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've seen that decline out here too. Like, you know, growing up, going to the amateur rodeos when I was in high school and everything, when I turned 16, I was able to drive myself. And I would literally make a living going to jackpots and amateur rodeos.
Yeah.
You know, like it was crazy. I look back on it, I'm like, I don't really know how I pulled off any of it. But, you know, I didn't rodeo with a business mindset back then. I rodeoed to rodeo and have fun with my friends and for the love of the sport. And now looking at it from a business standpoint, I'm like, how the fuck does anybody do anything?
Yeah. Well, and it's so funny too, because I something that I heard from a podcast I was listening to with Jeremy Bueller, and he's a Canadian team roper that won the World Finals in 2017. He's
First world champion team roper from Canada.
That's cool.
Which was super cool, and he looked kind of like Chris Stapleton. He's got a big fucking beard, and he had long scraggly hair for a while too. So he looked like a fucking drifter.
He is a healing wizard.
Yeah, he's fast as fuck. But he was talking in a podcast about how anybody that wants to get into it, he tells them don't go into the pros because it costs you more money and you don't make nearly as much money as you would if you were doing just jackpot ropings. Because like there is so much money involved in it. Like then, and especially with team roping, because you have like the World Series of Team Roping, which is again like there's like 7 or 8 different categories.
Yeah.
And then the open as well. So you have so many chances to make money at it.
Yeah. And what the categories are. So when you go to rope at a team rope and jackpot, you as an athlete are numbered based off of how well you rope. And it's on a tier of 10 being the best in the world, 1 being I'm brand new. And so there's different categories. So there's an open, which is anybody can open it, but it's for the best of the best.
Yeah.
And then there's 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. And you have to fit within that category. So if Spencer's a 5 and I'm a 6, we can enter the 11 or the 12. You can go up in category, but you can't go down.
Okay, that makes sense. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm just getting like a full crash
So,
course.
yeah,
there.
Yeah.
Spencer was saying there's a lot of money to be one of these jackpots. The World Series of Team Roping is about to kick off in Vegas, and to go win the number 10 roping down there, it's probably going to pay $200,000 a man.
Wow.
To win that roping, it'll cost you $2,500 to enter it.
Yeah. That's
But
pretty
you
good
might-
return though.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so many ways to win too. Like you could go out on your first steer, knock 2 down really well, and get into the incentive round. So you go run a third one anyway. Now you've placed in this average and you still won 7,500. Your week's paid for or whatever. It made it worth the trip and shit.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Yeah, I didn't know like some of the ins and outs of like I've gone to the Stampede. I've sat and watched the rodeo. Not really know what the fuck's going on. Just drinking beer and having fun, right? But that's cool to learn the ins and outs a little bit because I know like I've known Spencer since I don't know like 2016. Right?
Yeah.
So that was pretty much fresh when you came. Pretty much you were still just coming from that lifestyle.
Yeah,
right?
I think I was 4 years out of rodeoing. I had kind of because like my big thing was the year that I applied for my permit to do novice in the CPRA, which is the Canadian Pro Rodeo Association. That was the year that I got all fucked up and broke my nose, my vertebrae, my fucking arm, just a fuck of a wreck on a practice horse too. So like they couldn't even like
Worst.
it was the worst. And I don't know if do you know Tim Lipsett? Yeah. So PBR bull rider. He was at this bucking horse school too, and my nose was off to the side. And he's like, he comes up to me and he's like, "Oh man, I can fix that." And I went, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he snapped my nose into place. But now if you look, one of my nostrils is smaller than the other because he fucking snapped it at an angle. So now I breathe funny at night, which is kind of a pain in the ass. But I remember it was when I was like, it was when I was 16. I got on my first movie set like a few weeks after that, and I was like, oh fuck, I don't really want to go back to possibly making money for doing something dangerous. Like I'd rather have the guaranteed paycheck for something, which is funny because most people that enter the film industry do not think about it for the guaranteed paycheck.
Yeah,
but I was
no.
like,
Usually that's funny. Like the stamina you have in different parts of your life when you come from the way we grew up.
yeah,
Like, have you listened to the Joe Rogan Dale Brisby podcast?
yeah,
So when Joe asked Dale, you know, have you ever tried stand up, and Dale was like, it's kind of my white buffalo. Like, would love to try. A little bit scared. It's funny because in my mind, every time before I go on stage, I'll tell myself, I'm like, dude, you have missed more high call cattle. High call is when you come back to run one more steer and you're the best team out of everybody. All you gotta do is catch this motherfucker.
Yeah.
You win all the money. I've missed more of those cattle and costed myself and my partner more money and that hurts way more than if I go on that stage and nobody laughs. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It really sets you up to take on some hardship and be like, this ain't that bad, because when I was 6 years old, I watched my dad put down our family dog.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different mentality. Right?
It's totally a different mentality, and like I feel like for myself, like I have the same sort of idea going into it where you know, any time that I get on stage, it can't possibly be worse than the worst time that I had bull riding.
Yeah.
Like it literally cannot be. The audience isn't going to curb stomp my face. You know, more likely than not, they're not going to curb stomp my face. Like
depends on what you say. Though.
It depends on what I say.
You never know. You never know.
but like 9 times out of 10, that's not going to happen. You know. But it is funny. So now I have a random question for you, because I know you've worked the timed event ends, but did you ever do rough stock or?
My dad was a bareback rider, so I grew up riding the spur board. And was,
shit!
Being groomed to ride bareback horses. Went to my first Johansson Brothers steer riding school when I was 9.
Yeah.
And was just started getting on cows. Hated it.
Really?
Did not like it. Actually, I didn't mind riding. It was getting down in the chute, man. I hated getting down in those wild bitches and then mashing you around. And freaking rearing up, and I hated that part.
Well, and I also think that there's something to be said for like the cows, specifically like what they've been using with like fucking rodeos for steer riding for the last, I don't know, like 15 years.
Yeah.
I'm more scared of a lot of those Brahma cows than I am of bulls, because like they're mean as shit. They're smaller in the chute, so like it's easier to toss you around in the chute, because that's the other thing. Like the chute is the most dangerous place to be in for sure. Like as soon as the gate opens, you're eliminating so much risk, because
it makes sense, because you're going into an open area instead of a confined space, right? It makes sense.
And like I've seen so many guys like fall underneath an animal and then they have to run and fucking crack the latch open. Speaking of Tim Lipsett, we were at a bucking horse school and he broke his arm because he was getting his hand into a rigging. And keep in mind, he also did this wrong. He wasn't sitting offside of the horse. So like when you're getting on like a bareback horse, because the rigging is solid, you want to sit like so that your riding arm side of your body is like on that side of the horse, so that if the horse flips over, it goes that way and then you can pull yourself up. But he was sitting like this, and so this horse flipped over and his rigging went right into his chest and he's trapped underneath this horse. And so they had to like run over and like open the gate, and then he's like trying to get his hand out frantically as this horse is trying to get up, which is the worst place to be in, because like it's not bad if you hang up to a bucking horse like in the arena, because like you can stay on your feet, you can pull yourself up, there's people out there to fucking stop the horse, you're fine. But being stuck underneath it, there's not really a way to get yourself out of there easily. So you did some cow riding, and then did you get on any bucking horses? Or
I never did. All my friends roped. My grandpa roped, everything like that. All my cousins roped. So I eventually just kind of went down to that end of the arena. And I mean, I always grew up with a rope in my hand, jacking around, roping the dummy and shit like that. Right? I did want to get on bareback horses when I was going to school in New Mexico. I was down there. Cody Lamb, who's one of the best bareback riders in Canada,
and a really good country artist too,
and phenomenal country artist. And so they
The
have-
Chris Ledoux of our generation.
Literally, he is.
He
Yeah,
is.
100% is.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see, and I hope other people are paying attention because
Yeah.
I think he'll take off musically when he decides he wants to put more time into that than he does working out in Spur and Bronx.
Yeah.
But so he had some really good practice horses around there that coach had for him, and I was like, fuck yeah. So I like started getting back into the gym heavy and like working out, and I was like gonna get my body ready, blah blah blah. But then I was dating this barrel racer from Weatherford, dude, and she was not about Cowboy Cole getting on a horse. She wasn't even about Cowboy Cole fucking hanging out with friends, let alone getting on. And I mean, at that age, as a freaking 21, 22-year-old thinking with my small head, not my big head, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, babe, you're right, I guess. Guess I won't. Guess
Which
I'll just be a
honestly,
bitch.
I gotta say, I think dating barrel racers is more dangerous than riding bulls. I just
It was, dude.
throwing it
really
out there.
was.
But did you know that barrel racing is actually the most dangerous event in rodeo?
Dealing with their mothers or what?
No, it's because every year thousands of people die in the mad rush to the beer gardens.
You told me this joke
16
before.
trampolines at the local rodeo today.
I picture them as like the dance moms of rodeo. Is kind of
Oh,
the vibes
yeah.
I
Oh
get.
my
Yeah.
God, that's
Yeah.
actually a good way to put
Yeah,
That is a good way to
from
put it.
like what you've explained to me and what I've seen, it's like
Most of the
dance
time,
moms
barrel
rodeo.
racers can't ride worth a fuck either. Like it's most of the time they're just they're basically shitty bronc riders.
Mm.
Like they're holding on to the fucking horn and their horse is doing all the work. Like I have so much respect for breakaway ropers, and I hope to
Amen.
God that continues to be popular at a professional level.
Yeah.
Because like I'm just fucking sick of seeing the same. Trying to be a pageant queen, like really trying to be a rodeo queen, but not quite pretty enough to do it, and then not quite being good enough to ride to do a real event. You know, that's barrel racing.
Okay, got it. Got it.
I like barrel racing because it's easy to convert one of their horses into a head horse, which is something that I like to ride.
That's true.
Yeah. They ride big horses that like to run.
Yep.
I like big horses that like to run.
There you go.
And the reason that they're good at being head horses is nope.
Because they watch Mom. Dude, I always think about that all the time about like horses at the trailer, just like standing there tied up, and the one horse is just like, so your owner at the beer gardens too, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, what's your owner doing? I don't know. She came back with some random bull rider, dude. The trailer's kind of rocking. His hay bag's just like swaying. I always think of that like barrel horses in the pasture, and they're just like, so what's your guys' zodiac sign?
Dude, his water bucket's just sloshing
Yeah,
around. It's like, fuck, are we moving again?
She rides the shit out of me.
Let's be honest though, bull riders can't make the trailer rock that hard. Let's be fucking real here. There's
only for about 8 seconds.
Oh fuck. All right, so I guess we should probably get into the
Yeah,
album.
at some point here.
Yeah.
We're here for music.
We're
Yeah,
here for
yeah.
music. So every week on Misfits on Vinyl, we review an album. Sometimes it's a popular one, sometimes it's one of our favorites, sometimes it's a crossover, and sometimes it's one that a guest recommends for us. And this week we are doing, drum roll, even though you read it in the title, Scorpions, Animal Magnetism. So this album, first off, what made you recommend this album? Because I really dug it. I was surprised. We've had some duds recommended to us in the past.
Yes, we certainly have. I said to Cole actually before we came in, I was like, this is an interesting one because like you could ask me to name a Scorpion song, I wouldn't fucking be able to name a Scorpion song. But then when I looked at their music, I was like, oh yeah, I'll Rock You Like a Hurricane, Winds
Yeah.
of Change. It's
Yeah.
like that's Scorpion, but none of their real big tracks, at least on their Spotify, was off this album. So I was curious for the same thing as well, why you picked this album specifically.
So I'll give it to you guys in the real short. This album is one of the only albums that I will listen to without hitting skip the most.
That makes sense.
So A, that's big for me. B, it wasn't honestly until like 4 or 5 years ago that I would like find a song that I like, click on the artist, and be like, I'm gonna start at album number 1. I would just listen to music that I really liked.
Yeah.
And I've always grown up liking all sorts of music. So when you were like, we need an album, I was like,
Pressure's on. Pressure's
going
on.
back through albums that I've listened to. I had a George Strait album picked out, like one of his first ones
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But then I was listening to it and I hit skip probably 4 or 5 times. So I was like, can't be this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I love rock and roll, and I love this kind of like the hair metal style.
Yeah.
And there's a couple songs on here that, for me as a creative, I've found those zones where you just find something that feels really good. So that's all you do. Like when I taught myself to play the piano, I would just find riffs on my own and I would just play that riff and then try and add this in. You know, you just find things that sound really good, and then when you do, you just roll with it, right? And so there's a couple songs on here where I can tell that the artists, like, you know, the guitarist, when he's like, you know, he's just feeling every single time he picks a string. I feel that shit.
Yeah.
It's nice to listen to. It's easy to just kind of get into, especially driving.
Yeah.
When you're rodeoing, man, you have so much time to
Oh,
listen
yeah.
to pods, listening to music and stuff like that. Like my buddy Asa Johnson that I traveled with a bunch this last summer, he has a music library that's crazy, but he's spent time trucking and hauling cows and doing that kind of stuff.
Just have time on your hands.
And this is one of those albums that I would go to on like a late night drive. Like I listened to it on the way in here. I'll probably listen to it on the way out.
Yeah.
It's just a really easy listen for me.
Well, and it's funny too, because like you mentioned, it's kind of that hair metal, but it's also, it feels like, because this was 1980, so it feels like that transition between sort of like the Asia fantasy metal sort of sound going into hair metal almost. Like it's this like in between thing where you can hear like hints of like that late 70s fucking like massive elements in terms of the music that make it sound fantastical, but then you hear things in it that are just like, oh yeah, this sounds like 1984. I fucking dig this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I felt similarly that it was felt like the beginning of a shift in the genre. I felt the same sort of thing. I was actually listening to it this morning when I first got up, and it just like fired me up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, fuck yeah. I was just like doing shit, feeding my cats, like fucking taking a shit, taking a shower, like just like fired up the whole way. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Well, and the other thing that I think is really funny about it is like it starts out so fucking strong and it just gets better. Like Make It Real is a really good way for them to start the album off, but like there's so many tracks on this album that I was just like, holy fuck. Like Hold On Tight, I think it is, that like when that came on, I was just like, whoa, they have a power love ballad in the middle of this, and it fits perfectly.
Yeah, Lady Starlight's
one
too. Yeah.
Lady Starlight's so good. Okay, so this is the 7th studio album by German rock band The Scorpions. It was released on March 31st, 1980. Fun fact about this, it was produced by Dieter Dirks, whose revolutionary work with the band attracted acts like Ike and Tina Turner, the Boomtown Rats, War, and Dokken.
Interesting.
Now, these were 2 fun facts I thought were really interesting. He preferred to work at night, and he recorded 2 whole albums just exclusively at night. And he started the darts club at the pub next door to the studio.
Just throwing darts and making tracks.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're gonna take a quick dart break.
Just gonna take a quick dart break. Gonna go play a few rounds with the fellas.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other thing that I thought was really cool, so the album cover was done by Storm Thorgensen of the design firm Hypnosis. And as with earlier Scorpions albums, he had also worked on those. But unlike several of their previous albums, the controversy did not result in the cover being replaced with an alternate sleeve. Recalling the cover photo, Thorgensen remarked, "That one was funny. I don't think we figured it out. We just knew that there was something rude somewhere." Which I love that album because I was also looking at it and I was like, you know, something about this seems a little sexual, but I can't figure out what it is.
Well, like I literally have it on my phone right now. When I look at it, it's almost just like you have both of them being obedient.
That's,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The dog's sitting there attentive. She's sitting there attentive.
That's actually a good point.
So I just kind of looked at it like, "What up, master?" Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when you look at it like that, it's just like, okay, he's the boss.
Yeah, and it's also funny that it's like they're both obviously like either kneeling or sitting, right? Because of like where the framing is and where his butt is in the frame.
Nice butt too, by the way.
Also, the crazy thing, that guy was the same one who did the album art for Pink Floyd's "Wish You Were Here,"
Interesting.
like with the fire.
Interesting.
So I thought that was a crazy little fact.
The handshake with the fire.
Yeah. Okay, so it was recorded October in 1979 to February 1980 at Dirk Studio in Stoneland, West Germany, and in Toronto at Manta Sound Studios.
That's cool. Little Toronto connection.
Little
there.
Toronto connection, and now another Canadian connection. Melvin Berman played the oboe on this album.
Okay.
And he was a Canadian who was known for his work with the Montreal Symphony Orchestra and the Radio Canada Orchestra, and for working with some of the biggest conductors at the time. He died in 2008. Rip Melvin. But
R.I.P.
yeah, R.I.P. But hey, cool, another Canadian connection.
The goated Canadian oboe player.
There's no better oboist. I will fight you.
I'm telling you, Melvin is the Michael Jordan of oboe playing.
If you don't think that, you can get the fuck out of here.
I just imagine too, like they're in a studio in Germany and they're like, we need someone to play the oboe on this, and then all of a sudden, Dieter Dirks is just like, I've got the guy.
Yeah.
We played darts together.
We played darts together.
Yeah. Schliegenhaugen Melvin.
One thing too I wanted to bring up since we were talking about darts. I don't know if you two are familiar with dart culture.
No.
So like last year, my family's really into darts. Like Newfoundlanders, we have a my grandpa has a party shed with just dartboards in it, and, like dedicated lights pointed at the dartboard.
How many hands have been stabbed by
That's a good question. That's a good question. But me and my brother at his last house, he set up a dartboard in the garage. We started getting into darts, so I started watching darts videos. It's insane. Like over in Europe, there's literally like probably 5,000-6,000 people in a stadium watching people throw fucking darts. Yeah, and they're all piss hammered and they're losing their minds. Like it's super big in Ireland, super big in England.
Really?
And when the announcer goes 180, yeah, fuck yeah, they're all losing their fucking minds. Everybody's pissed. It's like a real interesting little, like, I don't know, they're into some weird sports over there.
I could just see a big German lady packing around underneath her arm a big old barrel of beer and be like, get your beer! And opening it, and Germans just sticking mugs underneath. Get beer! She's just carrying it.
I was genuinely shocked how much of an audience they had to watch people throw.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, how does Cowboi Cole get 5,000
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
to show up to watch me throw?
Well, they're playing for big
No
money
shit.
too. They're playing for big money too, like 50,000 euros, whatever the fuck they're playing
Fuck.
for. Yeah, no, it's pretty impressive.
We're in the wrong business.
And they're all big fat guys that just drink beer and play darts. None of them are remotely athletic.
Is there any stipulation that they can't be drunk while they're?
I don't know, but like I'm built like a professional dart athlete. Like,
I feel like in the off season of darts, they're training for beer Olympics.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
could very well be.
Yeah,
100%. But yeah, they all look like me. Most of them are bald, and like there's no age cap. Like there's not like a seniors darts tour. Like everybody's like a wide range of fucking people playing darts. It's like I was like enamored. I was like went on a deep dive. I was watching like highlight clips and like all sorts of stuff. It's worth it.
Fuck, that is crazy.
Yeah, I implore everybody that's listening to look up some professional dart games.
I'm definitely gonna look up some professional
And,
dart
like
games.
the announcers are hype. It's amazing.
You know what's wild though is watching something where the announcer shouldn't be hype. Being hyped is almost as impressive as watching someone announcing something that should be hype and they have no energy whatsoever. I fucking love watching a bull riding where the announcer is fucking just calling it like it's the goddamn Keno numbers. Like I love that so much. This next person coming out of the chute, they're from Okotoks, Alberta. Let's take a word from our sponsor, Andy's Tire Works.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. And that score will be 79. 79. Next shoot number 7.
It's not like that in darts.
No.
no. I'm telling you, when they call it 180, it's fucking electric. The room is electric. Yeah, I felt it like through the screen. Like I felt the energy.
Okay, now I have a question for you because speaking of the electric energy, and this is like I need to ask this because I've never been to a PBR event that wasn't in a small town. And you've been to like the PBR Canada finals and a bunch of things. How fucking different is the energy in that compared to like a CPRA rodeo?
Night and day.
Really?
Night and day. The PBRs, man, are literally geared to be a fucking show. It's geared to be a rock concert. They don't want conversations in the stands. They don't want you looking over to your friend to see what you're doing after. They
Mhm.
want your eyes on the arena, whether it's Dakota Butter going 90 or it's Brinson James doing a fucking backflip off of the pickup man's horse. Did you see that video?
No.
Dude, it was fucking insane.
What?
So Brinson will like crawl all over shit and whatnot. He's like the best rodeo entertainer going right now. You'll see him at Stampede. But he'll do backflip off of chutes, off the shark cage, everything like that. Well, he crawls onto the back of Wade Grover's pickup horse, and Wade Grover rides massive blue roan pickup horses. And Brett Gardner was on the mic like, "Oh, Brinson, be careful. We would hate to see you fall," just jacking with him. And Brinson fucking gets on the back of this horse, looks up at the Jumbotron to double check the cameras on him, takes his hat off, boom, hucks a backflip off this horse, stomps it, and then just runs off like this.
Wow.
It was sick.
That is
amazing.
that is
They're,
so much balls to do that
they're,
too.
they're trying to push boundaries, man. They're trying to bring people in that want to push boundaries. They're just trying to put on a really good show. They're trying to bring in a lot of money through the door so that they can pay the boys. Because that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's been the really cool thing about getting to be around that PBR Canada group now is how much of a family they are. And man, when they take you in, they love you and they want to see you do well, and they want to see everybody do well. So it's freaking hype, man. They get that place rocking.
Fuck, that's cool.
You just
Yeah.
convinced me to flip from the darts to the rodeo. Flipping off the darts now. Switching sports.
You'll watch some guys get tossed like darts.
Yeah,
There you
that's
go.
true.
There you go.
You'll see 182 bones broken.
I'll tell you what, I'd much rather watch darts in that rodeo than I'd watch baseball. So I'm 100% down.
Yeah. Baseball on TV is fucking awful.
Yeah. In person, it's nice.
It's
but
so
TV
much
is
fun in
fun.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fucking do you ever go watch like Okotoks dogs play?
I've been to 2 games. I had a blast both times. I've tried to get back, and it just, I don't know. It's weird. It seems like I'll have a ticket lined up, and then we flake because something else goes on or whatever. So.
Yeah. Fuck.
But
We
yeah,
need to go to a baseball game soon.
Yeah, I like watching baseball in person, but you couldn't pay me to watch it on TV.
No.
You could pay me to watch it on TV.
Yeah.
I would get paid to watch things.
Absolutely, actually, now that you mention it.
Well, maybe I retract my statement. Yeah, like any sort of funds coming in for doing nothing, I would probably take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll even write a report on it.
That's a pretty bad trade I just offered up. Yeah. It's like,
Cole, we read your report. What did you think? It was very short worded. There were a lot of Puerto Ricans.
And 4 Japanese fellas.
Yeah.
Okay, so one last thing about this album that I thought was crazy is the remaster for the CD was done by a guy named Howie Weinberg, who is a American audio mastering engineer, and over the course of his career, he has received over 2,257 mastering credits,
damn.
3 technical awards, 21 Grammy Awards, 2 Junos, and 1 Mercury Prize. And in 2017, his work on Nirvana's "Smells Like Teen Spirit" was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame.
Let's go. Dude.
I was like,
Let's
what
go.
the fuck?
Yeah, that's cool.
Can you
I already knew
imagine
that, by the
though?
way, but-
He's got to fucking do like 3 albums a week over the course of his career to get to that number of,
That's super
Holy
impressive.
shit.
like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's super impressive.
Like, that guy does not sleep.
I don't know what it takes, what entails mastering and remastering, but I'm
Cocaine.
Yeah, a lot of cocaine.
A lot of Adderall, I think. Yeah, just a popping Adderall, like he's an engineering student.
That good LA marching powder.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, that seems like I do that and watch baseball at the same time, get paid for both.
Yeah, no fucking
I
kidding.
get my hyper focus going
Right.
and just start remastering and
Yeah,
watching
dude.
baseball.
Not a lot of people have seen it snow in LA.
That's
That
true.
man has.
That man has fucking made it snow in LA. Okay, so about the artist. Okay, so I kept it kind of short with the about the artist, but I added some fun facts that I thought were kind of interesting. So Scorpions are a German rock band. We talked about that. They were formed in Hanover in 1965 by guitarist Rudolf Schenker. The lineup from 78 to 92 was the most successful incarnation of the group, which included Klaus Mein, Rudolf Schenker, Matthias Jabs, Francis Buchholz, and Hermann Rarebell. The band's only continuous members have been Schechner, although Mine has appeared on all of the Scorpions studio albums, while Jobs has been a consistent member since 1978, and bassist Powell Massaoueda.
I like that you're putting a
Massaoueda.
fucking terrible accent on this every time
Powell
you say your name.
Powell
you know,
Massaoueda. Massaoueda.
Listen, reading hip hop artist names
Mesa
are your fucking
Wood.
kryptonite.
Yeah, I really fucked up at
You
hip hop
should get
artists.
You should get it. Anytime we do a hip hop album, he's got to name the producers. Or the,
no.
It's hilarious.
I'm like De La Sowell.
That's great. It's the best.
Okay, so this is a weird fun fact, but Jim Valance, Don Dawkin, and Billy Corgan have all provided vocals on Scorpions albums in the past.
Interesting.
Which I thought was quite interesting. Like Dawkin makes sense.
Yeah.
Billy Corgan does not make sense.
I'm surprised Billy Corgan could actually work with
Other people.
Yeah. That's the most impressive fun fact you've given so far.
By the end of the fucking recording of that album, they wanted to smash a pumpkin on his head.
Billy Corgan, man, interesting cat.
Okay, so Rudolf Schechner, the band's rhythm and lead guitarist, launched the band in '65, and at first the band had Mazer beat influences, and Schechner himself handled the vocals. He played in a band with Luther Heimberg before he founded Scorpions. Karl-Heinz Vollmer left the band in 1967 because of his military obligations. Then he could not associate anymore with the concerts and the military life. Things began to come together in 1970 when Schechner's younger brother Michael and vocalist Klaus Meine, who had played together in the Led Zeppelin and Taste cover band Copernicus. Fuck me. I really
Samsonite. I was way off.
You thought you couldn't read? Holy fuck!
I'm severely dyslexic. Fuck off.
Why do you get the computer then?
I don't know, 'cause
Why
I'm-
do you get the fucking?
I'm trying to overcome my dyslexia.
Breaking
all these
boundaries
people?
on Misfits on Vidos. If you keep this up, we're gonna have our own TLC special, man.
I think this Little brain, big world.
Yeah, Little Brain, Big World.
If anything, this is just proof of fucking post-concussion disorder.
Yeah,
That's all this is.
syndrome, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't even say it right. Fuck off.
I saw the movie with Will Smith. I know what that's all about. CTE.
CTE. Can't talk either.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Exactly. I was thinking of what I was
I was gonna do
abbreviated
the same
for.
thing. I was like CTE.
I was literally rifling through my brain. Yeah.
First thing that came up was cock tarantula.
Yeah.
That wasn't going anywhere. So.
Copernicus, totally enveloped.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, so the Scorpions didn't win any Grammys in their time as a band.
Yep.
But they did win other major awards, including Album of the Year in Germany, Album Art of the Year by Playboy magazine. They won multiple Bravo Auto Awards, which is a magazine in Germany, a music magazine, several World Music Awards, a Hard Rock Cafe Lifetime Achievement Award,
Nice.
and
That's the biggest one.
They get mediocre food for life. Overcooked steak for life.
the fucking steak there has never seen a day of pink in its life.
No.
You ask for a rare, they give you a pop.
It's like they're inducted to the Hard Rock Cafe Hall of Fame, but they have none of their merchandise there. It's probably true. I know I went to one. I think I went to the one in New York on a school trip. Yeah.
I should go to the one in LA.
Yeah?
I've never been to one.
There you go.
I don't know what it is really.
It's like the Rainforest Cafe, but rock stuff.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so
That's
your thing. If that's your thing, if you're not into frogs and monkeys, you can always go look at guitars and drums while you eat your food.
I do like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so their song Winds of Change was released as the album's third single on January 21st, 1991, and became a worldwide hit just after the failed coup that would eventually lead to the end of the Soviet Union. The song topped the charts in Germany and across Europe and peaked at number 4 in the US and number 2 in the UK. And then it appeared later on the band's 1995 live album Live Bites and their 2000 album with the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra, Moment of Glory, and their 2001 unplugged album Acoustica. The band also recorded a Russian language version of the song under the title Betip no, I'm not.
Yeah, don't even try. I was gonna say this reminds me of we talked about this before, but like David Hasselhoff's massive in Germany, right? I don't know if you know this.
Yeah.
He's a big celebrity, but when they were tearing down the Berlin Wall, I'm almost positive this might be a false memory, but I'm pretty sure there's a video of him fucking singing when they're taking down the Berlin Wall. I'm like racking my memory book here, but I'm pretty sure there's a fucking video out there where David Hasselhoff is singing one of his big hits from the 80s. In Germany.
Man, he's an odd duck.
Yeah, he is an odd duck.
But you know what? I'd love to have him on the podcast.
I'd love to eat a cheeseburger with him, honest to God. That video of him trying to eat a cheeseburger while he's fucked up is top class.
I don't think I've seen
No, he was like fucking super wasted, and like I think they were using this in like his divorce trial or something.
Oh,
and
fuck.
He's fucked up eating a cheeseburger, like lying on the ground, like right after he was in the SpongeBob movie. It's like,
No.
Okay, remember when he was a judge on America's Got Talent?
Yeah.
What a fucking weird time that was, because I remember every single contestant, he would be like, he would kind of make I want to fuck you eyes at them, and he'd turn like, well, that was amazing.
Remember when Pierce Morgan was a fucking judge?
Yeah.
What the fuck does he know about talent? What the fuck? He's a news host. What the fuck?
Dude, Howard Stern was a judge on it
That's
as
like
well.
having like local weatherman Dave Spence, like as your fucking.
And today's guest, Ray Charles.
It's so stupid. Like they had the worst host, like Ozzy Osbourne's wife.
Yeah.
Like
Which, by the way, this is a fun little random piece of music history, but she had a beef with the Insane Clown Posse in the 90s because she repped a band that had like one hit single, and they got booked to open for ICP. And after 2 concerts, the band was like, okay, you're not like a good match for like opening for us. And you know, you're not selling merch. Like you're just like not selling anything.
Mhm.
So they kicked them off the tour. And this was 3 years after their like one hit single as well.
Yeah.
So then Sharon Osbourne went on Howard Stern and was talking shit about them. So they went on Howard Stern and were like, all right, fuck you. First off, your band sucks. You fucking don't know what you're talking about. All this shit. And so then she made a bet with them. She bet them $50,000 that their next album would be a flop and that they were like done. Their next album went 4 times platinum and they fucking did a massive stadium tour to promote it. So they keep going, where's our money, bitch? And then the best part about it is when she got cancer and she like ended up being clear, they were like, glad that your cancer's clear. Now you can pay us that 50 grand you owe us.
they were like, thank God you didn't take it to the grave.
Yeah, no fucking kidding.
That's amazing.
Okay, so with estimated sales of 14 million copies sold worldwide, Wind of Change is one of the best-selling singles of all time. It holds the record for the best-selling single by a German artist, and the band presented a gold record and $70,000 of royalties from the single to Mikhail Gorbachev in 1991,
Nice.
with Soviet news sources claiming the money would be allocated to children's hospitals.
It went right into Roman Abramovich's pockets, dude. All the oligarchs is like, well, we got the Wind of Change royalties. Yeah.
Yeah, that money actually just paid for the Kursk. That's all it did.
Yeah, new yacht.
Have you fucking do you know the story of the Kursk?
No.
Okay, so when Putin was the prime minister of Russia, like way back in the day when they had a prime minister and not a president, he was holding like military games in like the near like the Arctic, right?
Yeah.
And they had this submarine called the Kursk, and it was the size of a fucking football field. It was massive. And it had like 5 chambers. Well, they were supposed to have like blank shells in their gun at the front of it to shoot, and it actually they had a live round, and it blew up the front of the sub, and it sunk the sub. And all the news sources were like being told that like the sub was fine for weeks, and so the families were just like, "Oh, this is totally chill." And then Putin was like, "Yeah, the sub it sunk."
They are gone.
They're
Tough
gone.
Tough shit.
And like there was like just like it was like a yeah, they're dead. Shut up.
While the winds
Family
of-
get no money.
while the winds of change play in the background.
And we're still looking for that Titanic sub.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's disintegrated. That's gone.
Oh fuck. Yeah, that's a good point. That one's gone.
Yeah, that one just imploded.
I've been so I have a joke about it in my act, and I this guy in Halifax came up to me after a show, and he's like, "Hey, so fun fact, I actually worked on the recovery mission for the Titan," and I was like, "What?" And he told me about it, and apparently, like, he was telling me, he's like, "Yeah, we knew immediately that it was fucking gone, but it was kind of a like a media, like they needed to put up a facade for the media so that it was like, oh, they could be alive still at the bottom of the ocean." Like, that thing was a fucking. They knew immediately. They're like, we lost contact. They're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Change the batteries on the Logitech.
Yeah, well, it's literally the same controller I played like NHL 04 on the fucking computer. Like, it's like,
But like somebody let the cafeteria know we're gonna be 4 plates short.
poor guys.
Oh,
Imagine paying $250,000 for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Dude,
a
I
lot.
almost paid $300 for a blowjob in Vegas, bro. So I couldn't even imagine $250 for a fucking ride on that. You know what I'm saying?
And that's probably just as dangerous, to be honest.
Yeah,
with you.
It was the fucking Motel 6 across from the Gold Coast. Not a good place to be. Fucking Vegas.
any Motel 6 in Vegas, there's like so many other hotels you can stay at. Like every hotel is cheap in Vegas, but you decide to stay at the Motel 6.
To keep profits up, bro.
Yeah, every other hotel, you get a hotel room in Vegas for like $30 on the strip.
Yeah. Dude, so now I have a question. Was that the hotel that the Cowboy Channel put you up at?
But Cole, we're really excited to send you back again this year. Room at the Motel 6. I'm gonna stop you right there. All right.
I don't want to get stabbed in my sleep by a bed bug.
That's a step over going down and putting a bed in the tunnels underneath Vegas. That's like a small skip from going down to the tunnels.
No doubt. Dude.
Okay,
That is the gateway drug.
so the
Motel 6.
the last part about the artist that I want to get into is Rock You Like a Hurricane, which was number 25 on the US Billboard Hot 100, contributed to that album's success, and the MTV video was in heavy rotation. In 2006, VH1 named Rock You Like a Hurricane number 31 on their 40 greatest metal songs of all time.
It's a great one.
It's a great one. All right,
That one gets a lot more radio play, I think,
Dude,
than
that's
any
the
other
one
other
Yeah.
that
tracks.
gets the girls on
Yeah.
the dance floor.
yeah.
That's the one that I think you would get the more radio play, even though, like, I guess Winds of Change is their bigger hit, but
Yeah.
I would probably, lean more towards Rock You Like a Hurricane being their most recognizable song.
And that's also one of 4 songs that kicks off every bull riding.
It's true.
It's literally
I know, yeah, it's true.
And, no, but it's either Rock You Like a Hurricane, Raise a Little Hell by Trooper,
Yeah.
AC/DC's Thunderstruck,
Yeah.
or it's Nickelback's Going Out Tonight. It's one of those 4
I'm
songs.
blanking on the fucking name of it, but it's like boom, boom, boom.
Oh, We Will Rock
Yeah.
You.
We
Yeah,
Will Rock You.
I have a video of me getting the shit stomped out of me by a bull at Swift Current while that song is playing.
He was
You did
feeling
get
it.
rocked.
Yeah,
He
I
was
got
feeling
rocked.
it.
That bull's name was Prairie Dog. He was.
got rocked in Speedy Creek. Leave to the t-shirt. Leaving the hospital, thumbs up.
Those thumbs are sideways.
I tried.
I got rocked. He's got witch fingers.
Okay, so we already talked about some of the tracks on the album, but the singles that came off this album were Lady Starlight, Make It Real, and The Zoo. All great tracks, but something that I thought should have been a single was 20th Century Man. I felt like that was a really strong track that would have probably done well on the radio.
Yeah.
Especially around that time when, it sounds a lot like a lot of the Rush songs that were out at the time that were getting heavy radio rotation. Okay, so reception on the album. It was number 76 on the Canadian top albums, number 12 in Germany, 37 in Sweden, 23 in the UK, and 52 on the US Billboard 200. It was certified gold in Canada and platinum in the US. And AllMusic has it rated at a 2.5 out of 5, but
Weak.
the Collector's Guide to Heavy Metal has it as a 10 out of 10, and Rolling Stone gave it a favorable review.
Favorable.
But Rolling Stone's also we have our gripes with music
Yeah,
critics.
Rolling Stones. What's his fucking name? The guy from the Rolling Stones that always comes up. I forget his fucking name.
No, that guy's from a different magazine,
Oh,
but
is
it's
he?
Stephen Erlewine Thomas or Thomas
that
Erlewine.
That guy's a bitch.
He's a knob. We disagree with everything he
Everything
says.
he says. Anytime it comes up in our reviews, we're like, "Fuck that."
He's
guy.
a fucking moron.
Yeah, I
Paid
mean,
for.
the one thing that pisses me off about the Rolling Stone is that they rate everything differently.
Yeah.
There's no consistency in what their rating is. So one album will be out of 10, one will be out of 5 stars, and then one will be like favorable, non-favorable. We like it, we don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, it's all over the place.
This one's 12 dill pickle chips out of 20, and you're just like, what the fuck? Okay, so every episode on the podcast, we rate the album, and we rate it out of 10. We rate it on technical, musical, lyrical, album art, reception, and does it hold up? So let's start off with technical. I would say for technical, the technical elements on this album, I think it's interesting because it was doing a lot of things that a lot of other metal albums were not doing in terms of what they were layering and what they were mixing, and basically how they were composing the album in general was a lot different than a lot of metal albums that were popular at the time or what people were considering metal, you know? So I would probably, I'd rock it at a 7.5 out of 10.
I'd say that technically the recording quality is pretty crisp. I mean, you can hear the different layers. I know it's kind of more of a musical thing, but I like how punchy the drums are. And you can like really hear when he's hitting the ride cymbal, hitting the crash cymbal, it really punches through.
Yeah.
Same with the snare. I don't know. I think technically I'm probably going to go at a 7.
7?
Because, you know, we're technical experts on this show. So.
We are technical
Yeah.
experts.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Personally, I'm going with an 8, mostly
Nice.
because I picked it. And secondly, because I agree big time with you. I fucking love cymbals smashing, but I don't. My ears are very sensitive, so I hate when that is almost too much, where I have to turn it down or it takes away from a guitar solo or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? You know. So I feel like I find I can hear those distinct where they put a little emphasis onto the cymbals to get almost a point across in the song, but then you can hear, you know, whatever they have.
Yeah, it
10
punches in
seconds from there.
punches in the right place. I
Yeah.
guess is what I was trying to say. Because you're right. I think there's certain genres and certain styles of music where, like, I know, like fucking real heavy death metal and stuff like that. It's all you hear is
Yeah.
like the double bass pedals,
Yeah.
and it fucking drives me mad. Like I know some people really are into that. Not me. Not my cup of tea. So I think it's a nice balance
Yeah,
on the mixing on this album.
I agree. So I think so averaging that's a 7.5
Nice.
out of 10.
Look at you doing math.
Musical element. Well, that one was easy. That one was so
Okay,
easy.
okay.
Let's
Hold on,
let's start throwing him some weird numbers here now. Let's make it fun.
All right, so musically it's really interesting because we were talking about you talked about the drums, both of you talked about the drums, and I think the drums really are a standout on this album. But I also I love the guitar riffs, and I love how there was some classical instruments that were added to this that really amplified the sound without overtaking it. It wasn't like, listen to this orchestrated metal song, like it wasn't like the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. It was like, oh shit, this is just a metal song that happens to have these instruments in it. I think that it's got a pretty consistent tone in the album, but the diversity in the fucking in the sound is still there track to track. So musically, I'm gonna go an 8.5 out of 10.
I agree with what you're saying. I'm gonna go with 7.333 repeating.
7.333 repeating.
Yeah,
Okay,
just for the hell of it.
I'm gonna go 8.69999.
8.6999. Okay, so
Don't act like you're about to do this fucking math.
Yeah, if I
8.27 out of 10, and then the other one was 7.5. So then that is averaged at 7.8 out of 10. Okay, we're at
This
7.8 out of
guy's
10.
7.8.
Someone cue the Elliott Smith. It's Matt Damon and Goodwill Hunting. He's fucking staring at the board. Staring at the board.
I can't read, but I can do math.
Yeah, there
Okay.
you go.
Lyrical. Okay, the lyrical. Lyrics on this album are interesting because most a lot of these songs are love songs, and so there's only a couple of songs that aren't that don't have the idea of romance at the core of it.
Yeah.
So I would say in terms of diversity of lyrics, there's not a big range, but I would say the lyrics themselves on each song, I like that they add a lot for interpretation and that they're not just spelling shit out for you in some instances. I like that they kind of just they have a lot of metaphors that they don't finish. I kind of like that because it makes me want to think in my own head what is going
Do you
to be.
think that was purposeful or just accidental?
You know, I think on their 7th studio album, I would hope it's purposeful.
Yeah. See, I found I wasn't really paying close attention to the lyrics.
7.25.
Yeah, I wasn't paying that close attention to the lyrics. For me, it was more about the overall sound than it was what was being said.
Mhm.
That's kind of my takeaway. Like the 4 or 5 times I listened to it, wasn't really the lyrics wasn't really something I cued in on as particularly like a strong point.
Mhm.
I think overall it benefits the sound, but I wouldn't think they were like anything incredibly poignant or anything like that. There was no lines I was like, oh, that's quotable or anything like that. So I'm gonna come at like a 6.5, I think, lyrically.
6.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with a 7.
You gonna go with 7?
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Well, that's pretty easy because that's 6.9,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Plus a 7.8. Brings it down.
yeah, it's at a 7.65 right now. Okay,
Nice.
so album art, I would go high on this because I thought it was interesting. And it's like, you know, it's obviously not as iconic as the one with the guy with his eyes taken out or anything like that. Like I do think that they have better album art, but I do find it interesting because, you know, like they mentioned, it was controversial without them having to say what was controversial, and people couldn't really pin it down. I think that when something is up to you know, interpretation, like you mentioned, like the idea of obedience, and that could be maybe what was fucking taken as like rude from people, right?
Yeah.
But I also like that that's your interpretation of it because they fucking don't say what it is that they're trying to get across with that, right? So I would probably I'm gonna go 7.5 on the album art.
Okay. Yeah. I think you're making a good point. It's not really a iconic piece of album art. If you were to, you know, look at to say 100 different albums, I don't know if it would be one that would stand out as, you know, one of the, you know, most iconic album arts of all time. But I don't think it's a bad album cover. I think it is kind of dated for the time. It looks like an album from the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
I think it, you know, it's that style. There's, you could probably pick out a dozen other albums that look, you know, maybe not in content, but similar sort of composition. So I'm gonna go a 7 on it. I think
7?
personally, yeah.
I'm going 9 out of 10.
9
out of 10?
Fuck
I
yeah.
fucking love it, man. I honestly wish he was wearing Wranglers or Kimes jeans just to give it that fucking cooler butt patch right there in
Yeah.
the back pocket. I love that, man. Because like when I look at it, I'm like, damn, I want to find somebody that looks at me with love like that. You know? Like this motherfucker left an impact on this girl.
Man, I mean, we look at each other like that, so
Yeah.
we got that going for us.
Yeah, the last the Steely Dan one, our thumbnail was like us looking at each other. I was tempted to put a hearts because you had those eyes.
Yeah,
You know?
we had fuck me eyes at each other.
Those glasses really make your eyes like
They
look bigger too.
they bring out the lust in my eyes.
Yeah.
They bring out the dollar. No, they're sick though. I do like it.
All right, so now we're at a 7.75 for the album art. So altogether, that is a 7.7 right now. Reception. What's weird about it is that I think that people that love the genre appreciate this album a lot more than you know, all music is this aggregate that fucking takes every review ever made and they throw it all together. So the problem is you get you know, reviews like from people like Stephen Thomas Erlewine, who will probably be like, well, it's not sniffing the farts out of my ass. So
I think it's got to be in the middle though, because not
Yeah.
only was it, you know, criticism wise, it was split down the middle. People loved it, people didn't like it. But charting wise too, it didn't chart super high. You
Yeah.
know, globally, because we've had a lot of albums that have split people down the middle, but they charted really
Yeah.
well too, right? So I think it's got to, like, at least for me, it's got to be in the middle somewhere there.
I would say the one thing I'll throw in though is it did go platinum in the
It's
US
true.
with very little radio play,
That's
which
what,
is
a million sold.
so that's pretty impressive.
And that's a million hard copies sold.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it went gold in Canada, which is only like 10,000.
50,000.
50,000 K. I'm gonna go a 5.5.
5.5.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go a 6 even.
6 even.
I'm gonna go 7 even, and I'll tell you why. Because I feel like this genre, this band, it was kind of like I viewed it as it's somebody that my mom wouldn't like me listening to, but you start to build your identity. Like, no, I like this. I like the way these boys play these guitars. I like the way these boys play the drums. I like the way they put it together. I like this music.
Nice.
Yeah,
Know what I'm
no,
saying?
that makes sense. That's a valid point.
You personally received it very well.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
so that one for reception, we're at a 6.25 out of 10.
Nice.
And then altogether, that means we were at a 7.75 or 7.7. So that brings it to 7.4 out of 10.
Nice.
Does it hold up? I'd say yes.
You say yes? I'd say it's tough for me. Like, I always have tough with like a very specific type of genre that's dated. I always have this debate. Like, does it hold up? Yes, the music still sounds good, but does it hold up sound-wise? I mean, not a lot of music does hold up sound-wise if it was made, 30, 40 years ago. I think tentatively, I'm going to say yes, it holds up.
Okay.
It's a tentative yes.
A tentative yes.
Yes.
That's tough because I think they'll have some songs that will forever hold up,
Mm-hmm.
but there's some songs in this album that will eventually just drift away. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, out of 10?
No, I just said yes or no.
Oh, I'll go yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Or maybe. You could say a maybe too.
So
I'm
we're
gonna go maybe.
We're at a 7.4 out of 10.
Yeah.
You always want me to round up.
No, round down.
I'm gonna say a 7.5 out of 10 because that's
7.5 out of 10.
that's
Just leave it as a 7.4. What's the beef?
I don't
I
know.
only like you to round up on the albums I love.
What's your beef? Okay, so
7.5 out of 10.
7.5 out of 10.
A lot of our albums fall in this
Which
mid.
is kind of the average of grades I got in high school too. 75%.
There you go. That's pretty good. Good for you.
Yeah.
You're the smartest one in the room.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I was homeschooled.
I wish I was homeschooled.
That's always brings me back to that fucking class we took. We took this bullshit class in university together, and at the end of the year, everybody ended up with a B+. Everybody in the room. I didn't even think I wrote on the final quiz. Like, I think I got a B+ on the final test or whatever. I think I bullshitted like a like I don't even think it was marked.
I did not hand in a
Yeah.
single essay.
Yeah,
I did
I
not
didn't hand
read
in
a single
anything.
book.
And we all got B+ at the end of the year. I was like, "What'd you get? B+?" And like the kids that were like, smart were like, "Fuck this is bullshit." And I was like, "B+? Fuck yeah,
The
dude."
tryhards were really mad, but
Yeah.
the professor was like, "Well, the thing is, if you just show up, that's most of it. If
Yeah.
you just show up, that's doing the work."
I didn't even really do that though.
I didn't even do that either.
Yeah.
I was like, "Fucking 8 a.m. on a Tuesday? Eat my shit. I'm
Yeah.
not going to that."
Yeah, that was fucking I just remember that because everyone got a B+, and I was like super stoked. And then I remember this one girl was like, "This is bullshit. I can't believe it. I was definitely more than the B+."
You know it's a trash class when your professor leads with, "If you just show up, you're gonna get a good grade." You've already played your hand.
Well,
man.
it's
You're
a
done.
it's a trash class when like the guys on the football team are in your class.
For real, right?
the undisclosed majors are in your class.
And it's also funny because like he would point to the football player each week and like, this is awful. I don't know how this guy hasn't. He got tenured after he
Yeah.
threw a fucking student in like a rehearsal. He used to be like crazy alcoholic, and he threw a fucking student in a theater rehearsal, and then he had to like take a sabbatical,
Yeah.
and then he came back and was tenured, and then.
Oh, no.
In this class, there was one football player that every single week he would point to this guy and go, "Well, you see, when he does athletic stuff, he's built different than the rest of you." The guy was black, and he was saying this, and I'm just like, "What the fuck? How?"
I just remember him like we were talking about like ancient Greek plays and shit, and he'd like ask the guy to compare it to football.
Yeah. Which I'm like, you can't
It's
make
like when the
everything-
quarterback. It's like,
I also made a lot of people hate me in that class because I was like 21 when I went to
you
university.
trolled hard though.
I did not troll. I
You
got
did
fucking.
troll.
I got very pissed off because I was paying for my education, and I felt like that class was a waste of my fucking time. And it was just past when we could like drop the class and take another one. And we're sitting in a giant circle, and everyone in the class is like, "I would like to change the way that the class works because I don't feel comfortable talking in front of people." I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing right now?"
Mm.
And so
God.
I listened to that for 2 hours, and then I grabbed a microphone on the table, and I was like, "Do you mind if I speak?" And the professor was like, "I feel like you're going to." And I was like, "Yeah, because what I'm going to say is important. You realize all you fucking people are in a drama class, and you're worried about speaking in front of people, right?" And like, I just fucking tore off on these kids, and then they were like, "He's a spaz." I'm like, "Yeah, I fucking am. Yeah, I am. I'm mad that you're wasting my goddamn money, you morons.
Well, at the time, I wanted to make a slight correction. The government was paying for your education. Now,
Now
you're
I'm
paying for your
my
education. But back then, you weren't.
Now I'm paying for my lack of
Back then,
education.
you were just cashing checks you couldn't pay.
That's true.
We all were.
It was a fun time.
It was the best.
All right,
buying
so-
beer on the government dime.
Before we get out of here, what are some places people can find you?
Social media, Cowboi_Cole, Cowboy with an I, not a Y.
Mhm.
Cowboy, as a lot of people like to say it. We're going to be in Vegas here in less than a week now, I guess. So if you're going to be kicking around Las Vegas, we'll be down there.
Nice.
And hoping to get back down here and do a bunch of shows when I get home from that.
You're pumping
it's
out
gonna be
lots
cool.
of content too,
Dude,
guys.
daily. I've
I
been
seen
posting.
our podcast page follows you, and anytime I go on the podcast page, like I'm always seeing the shit you're posting. So
Yeah.
props to you. That's not an easy thing to do.
Man,
Yeah.
I've really tried to commit to this is what I want to do. I tried to be the business guy when I was younger. I fucking love words. I love jokes, and
Mhm.
I love what I know, which is rodeo and roping and cowboys and everything like that. And when I finished working on Wind River earlier this year, I want to go 100% in on this. Fucking getting the merch ramped up and everything like that, getting more microphone work, trying to do more comedy because that's opening crazy doors. Like
Mhm.
just trying to go for it, man. And the best way to do that is be in their face, I guess. So
Yeah,
just
100%.
all fucking day.
It's not even like that's something we've encountered even in our trying to do our podcast is the content, always having stuff to
Yeah.
put out there, always and it's not even like I think you found that fine balance too, where you're not overloading people with your face either.
Yeah.
You're posting quality stuff also, in quantity, which
Mhm.
is the hard thing to do. Is you're posting good stuff at a regular rate consistently. So I applaud you for what you're doing. I see, like I said, I see in your stuff every time I go on. You're either doing stories, you got new videos coming out. So big props to you, Cowboi Cole.
Thank you, sir. I
No
love to
problem.
do it, man. I love to wake up and write jokes and go film it.
Hell
It's my
yeah.
literal dream job. Like the other day, me and my filmer, we had a meeting and we Zoom called in my other buddy Lambert, and having like that writer's room get together and pitching ideas, and I love that. Let's work on it. You find the jokes as you work on it. That's my literal dream job, man. I love that shit. And then you go film it, and you go have a blast with your friends filming what you just made each other laugh in the shack, and then you go do it.
Well, some of that too is that's the hardest stuff to do, is just to fucking dive in and do it.
Yeah.
Not overthink it, not try to be, perfectionist about it. Some of the hardest work to do is just actually doing it.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, we talked about doing this podcast for I don't know how long before we actually
Years.
sat down and fucking did it.
Yeah.
So actually doing the thing and doing it consistently is the hard part, right? So
And honestly, like that's the other thing too, is like Aaron mentioned the quality, like the fact that the quality is staying consistent too, and you're not dipping in the quality of what you're putting out, which I think is also really fucking difficult to do in the world that we live in, where you have to be putting out content consistently, because you see a lot of people maybe get success and then the quality starts to dip, right? And I think that's something that's really impressive, is that you're not letting the quality dip while you're still like constantly doing it,
and also doing what you know.
Yeah.
Like that's a big thing too. Like I know I personally dealt with this when we got on the podcast, is like there's a weird thing, a balance of like getting comfortable and just being yourself.
Yeah.
And like it took us a couple episodes just to actually be ourselves on camera and not really
100%.
give a fuck. And that's a big part of it, is just doing you and letting you be you. I don't have to be anybody else. I don't have to, like before when we first started, like I don't know if we even really talked about this. I used to kind of think about what I was going to say before we got on the podcast. I would have a couple ideas in my mind about what I was going to say, and I would like kind of force it into the conversation. At certain points, it's like, oh, I thought before this, I thought about this. I wanted to say that. I want to say that. Don't really do that anymore. And it's been great for me. I don't have to think about it. I just, say what I think in the moment, what I'm feeling, and I don't have to actually, put a lot of forethought into it. Because before I was like really thinking about, I want to say this about it. I want to say that. About it. I had written a joke for this or written a joke for that. Right. I don't do that anymore.
Well, and it's also interesting too, because okay, I want to mention it before we get off as well. Where can people get the I Heart Hot Rodeo Moms and I Heart Hot Rodeo Dad shirts?
Cowboicole.com, same deal, Cowboy with an I. Everything's set up on the website, ready to rock and roll. Use code Cowboy, COWBOI, to get 15% off the first order.
Hell
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well, I will make sure that we add that to the links underneath, and we'll have all your social media linked there too.
Okay.
But if somebody's listening to it and they don't feel like clicking on it and they feel like typing shit out, they can go and do that.
Type it out as you're listening to it.
Yeah, type it out as you're listening to it. We'll,
Multitask.
we'll play it in super slow motion.
We'll slow it down. Anyways,
Um,
that was a fun conversation.
Yeah, that was a fun episode. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me. This place is sweet. I think what you guys are doing is sweet.
Yeah, shout out to Cax for having us
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
We might be back again. We don't know yet.
Yeah, this is
So-
our last episode for now here. I guess we should mention, like, this episode comes out next Wednesday. So I'll be in Los Angeles next Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, fuck yeah.
So anybody that wants to come out and see me at one of the shows, please do it.
Come see this man.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be my first time in America land. I'm excited.
You gotta
um,
be stoked for that.
I'm very
You've
stoked.
never been to the U.S.?
Well, I've been to, like, Montana and fucking Idaho, but
That doesn't really count.
it doesn't count. Fucking Kalispell isn't the same as LA.
Well,
You know?
LA should open your eyes.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. And the other thing that I should mention is the last episode that we're recording this year is our Christmas episode.
Fuck yeah.
So we're gonna have a special Christmas special.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, and anal contusions.